My name is Huri Nurani, and I have been in the publishing business since 1986, 85, 86. It was a publishing concern run by my father, my late father, and I was I joined it in 1984, but I practically started working full time when my father passed away in 1986, and I took over the reins of the publishing house. It's my father's main business was law books. He was an importer and bookseller of law books by the name of Pakistan Law House, which still exists. And the publishing business was started in 1967 with the name of Maktab-e Danyal. The business was started as, well, the main business, of course, as I told you, is the law books business. Urdu books were my father's passion, and publishing progressive literature is what his aim was. And he used to subsidize the business by he had some agencies of British publishers like Cambridge University Press and Rutledge, Kegan Paul and others. And he used to subsidize Urdu books that way and, fulfill his passion. The first book we published was Shahid Ahmed Dehlvi's Ujra Diyar, a book about Delhi. And of course, we are very known for being the publishers of Mushtaq Ahmed Yusfi and for being the publishers of Sibte Hassan. We've published all of Sibte Hassan's books, and we've published all of Mushtaq Ahmed Yusfi's books. And of course, we have a long list of very eminent writers like Iftikhar Arif and Quratulain Haider and Gulzar Saab and Javed Akhtar Saab and Jilani Bano and Fehmi Daryaz and Habib Jalib and many, many, many more. For a long time now, I had been thinking that we have some wonderful writers, Pakistani writers, writing in English, who need to be translated because the main book market in Pakistan, of course, is in Urdu or the regional languages. And I sort of, I've been wanting to go into that because I do translations of foreign writers, Russian writers and others. So I thought that, why not the Pakistani writers? And I approached Muhammad Hanif for his book, and he agreed. And I thought it would be a wonderful work of fiction to start with, because the book was now 11 years old. It was a satire on a period of dark history of Pakistan, which is acknowledged by everyone as being a period of dark history. Nobody denies it. And it is a work of fiction, and nowhere does it claim to be the truth. In fact, we published a disclaimer in it also stating that it's a work of fiction. It was published in September of 2019, and it was very well received. There were a number of book launches, but in December 2019, around the end of December, actually around the 30th of December, we received a defamation notice from Ijazul Haq Saab, the son of the late Ziaul Haq. And he claimed that we had defamed his father's good name. And so we, of course, consulted our lawyers together with Hanif and the translator, because the defamation notice was in the name of the author, the translator, and the publisher. And while we were consulting the lawyer to formulate an answer to the defamation notice, because of course, it was a work of fiction, so it was not a libelous in any, in any way. B, it had passed the period of, it was time barred because the book had existed for 11 years already. It was published in number of languages of the world. It was being taught in universities all over the world. So we had consulted the lawyer and we were formulating a response. But on the 7th of January, I got a call. I had left my office at around 4 p.m. and I got a call at 6 p.m. from my manager stating that the office had been visited by officers claiming to be from an intelligence agency. They had identified themselves and they had, they had said that they have come to confiscate the book because the book is against national interest and it is a dangerous book and it cannot be allowed to be sold. We had about, I think, if I don't remember right now, 200 plus copies in the office, which of course, my manager of course asked them to wait till he could speak to me, but they did not allow him to speak to me. And they said that, if he doesn't comply, then, he will be answerable. And so they were allowed to take the books which were there in our store. And then after they left, he called me and he told me that they had taken the books and they had asked for a list of booksellers who were selling the book. And we told them that, the book had been selling for 4 months and was almost out of print now. These were the only copies left. And even booksellers were probably running out of it. And my manager said he couldn't give them a list from the top of his head. He'd need time to prepare it. And he asked that they come the next day. So they came the next morning and I was there. I had a member of the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan with me at that time. And they were very polite. And they said, they said, we respect you a lot. And we don't mean to cause any harm, but we have to take this book away. And I said, this book has been around for so many years, and why now? And they had no answer. I asked if they had any legal papers which said they were banning the books. So they said they didn't have any paper or notification, but it should be considered a ban. And that was that. The demand for the book has gone up 100-fold. I think if they had just let it go. And after that, of course, we answered the defamation notice. We sent a very strongly worded rejoinder, and we haven't heard back from anyone since. I think it was, it had a lot to do with Mr. Ejazul Haq. I think he triggered it. And then, of course, we know that anything written in Urdu reaches a much larger audience. So I guess that was the main reason. They probably thought that, it would be reaching a much larger audience. It was okay while that was in English, even though they should have realized that, over a period of 11 years, even in English, more than 10,000 copies had sold in Pakistan. And I did not expect 10,000 copies to sell in Urdu, at least not for many, many, many years. So I think it was just paranoia. Pakistan has had a really checkered history with censorship, censorship of the press mainly, and then censorship of books. I mean, we know that books have always been a thorn in the side of dictators all over the world. I mean, books have been banned throughout history from ancient times till now. And books on scientific knowledge, books, philosophical books, as well as fiction. We cannot forget, Lolita being banned, or Dr. Zhivago, or of course, Let's Come Home and talk about the ban on Manto. And not only were his books banned, but he had to face long trials. There was a ban on Ismat Chughtai, there was a ban on Josh Maliabadi's book of poetry. even coming down to very recent history. I mean, even when books have not been banned, they have been tacitly not approved. Like when Aisha Siddiqa's book, Military Incorporated, was published by Oxford University Press. The launches were disrupted, and they were not, the book was not banned, but the launches were disrupted, and there was sort of a, it was difficult for Oxford in the beginning to sell the book. So there has always been, this, so one has always had to navigate. We cannot forget the banning of The Press in Chains, a book about the press being in chains, Samir Niazi's iconic book. And so it has been a long history. Thankfully, we have not come to, as yet, to that stage where books are being burnt, like in Nazi Germany. But how far is that if we look at all the new draconian laws that are being enacted? So when you see a society which is not confident in itself, is always, a confident society faces criticism confidently. A society that is not confident in itself always tries to silence the messenger. And the easiest way to keep people away from thinking critically is to manipulate textbooks, is to make changes in syllabus. And this is not something new. This has been happening, in successive governments, not only in our country. We see it happening in India today. We see it happening in many countries of the world. The curriculum, the textbooks are the most important thing, because that is how you mold the minds of the new generation. And if you do not want critical thinking, if you want to keep people moribund in certain, to think just like the state or the establishment wants it to think, then what you do first is go for the textbooks. And that is what is happening today also. It is alarming because it is happening on a really large scale. And it is alarming because it is not just the textbooks, but it is also another law recently passed by the Punjab Assembly itself, which is a political body which runs under the constitution and which is violating the basic Article 25 of the Constitution by passing a law which says that every book published has to be, before publication and after publication, scrutinized by the DGPR and the Director General Public Relations, and if he so deems, by a group of religious leaders or whatever. And this is only in the Punjab. But if this is allowed to become a law, I am afraid that it won't take long for it to, be picked up, as the Punjab Assembly has already advised that the other provinces and the federal government should also do this. So it is a scary law, and it is it gives arbitrary to one individual, to a bureaucrat. It gives arbitrary powers to without the power, without giving any sort of concession to the publisher or the author or anyone to challenge that. There is no, as yet in the law, you don't see any there is nothing said about whether we can challenge that in any court of law or in any other forum. And it is up to the whim of one person and his thinking and what he deems is a matter of national security or national integrity, or terms which are they're so vague and which have always been used, like defense, or some creating hatred, or challenging the sovereignty of the nation, or what is used most of all, the ideology of Pakistan. Now, these terms are so vague and there's no one definition of these terms. So how do you decide which book is going to pass this and which is not? I mean, I sit now with 5 books in my hand that I'm about to publish, and I think, where in this book can I go wrong? And it's not just the Punjab. I sell my books in the Punjab. My books will go to the Punjab. It's a huge market for me. So even though if the law is not passed in Sindh, I can still be stopped from selling my books in the largest province, and which happens to be also the largest market for Urdu books. So it affects all of us, and I think if this law is passed, and if this is how it's going to be from now on, it is stifling. It is stifling freedom of expression. It is stifling free thought. It is stifling, academics. It is stifling of the intelligentsia, and it is really, really very disconcerting. Well, this is something that we have just started facing, and especially after my book was confiscated, I've had to think a lot about what I publish next. And frankly speaking, I haven't really navigated it as yet, and I really don't know how, except that as a publisher, as a bookseller, as a part of civil society, I think we all need to act as a group to prevent such laws from becoming, to prevent such ordinances from becoming the law, because it will affect everything, not just publishing. Mainly, it will affect how society develops. So I am hoping and that this law will not be passed in its present form, at least, and that whenever it is passed, people from the civil society and from concerned parties will be taken on board. If not, then I think that we should stand together to protest and to maybe go for a public interest litigation or something like that, because it will be impossible to work. I just don't know what to publish after that, because as I said, the terminology is so loosely written that anything that one person or two or a group of people think goes against the ideology of Pakistan or goes against national interests can be confiscated. And it is I think I don't see how we can operate in that situation. I am sure my father must have been careful in those times and chosen what he was publishing, being basically a publisher of fiction. It is, I think in those times it was probably easier. If for us now, even fiction has to be scrutinized very carefully. So in that way, we are living in more difficult times. What the era of Zia-ul Haq did was change the mindset of a whole generation, in fact, 2 generations after him. So we are living in a much more difficult period. And I think there is more self-censorship now than there was then. And there is more of a, in Zia's time, we knew it was Zia-ul Haq, and we knew his policies, and we knew what we were facing. It's much more sort of insidious now, because we don't really know what we are up against and where we will come against, Like, I never imagined that a case of exploding mangoes after so many years would suddenly irk General Zia-ul Haq's family or our agencies, So yeah, so I think we are living in much more difficult times. I forgot to tell you that because of the confiscation of the book, it came to the notice of the World Publishers Association, and we were nominated. Only 4 publishers all over the world were nominated for the Prix Voltaire. Okay. For showing, courage in the face of repression. And so we were nominated for that, and I'm immensely proud of that.